What can you do when you reach that point in your research in which you realize that your research doesn't make any sense? I feel this is something that happens to everyone who works in science, who does research, because it's going to sound harsh, but this is the point of research. Like, research doesn't make sense at all until it does. However, this doesn't make it less painful when you've put in the effort, the hours, the work, the mental load into trying to make something work, and then the only thing that you get is an error message. The only thing that you get is something like, okay, maybe this hypothesis is correct, maybe it's not, maybe you should basically try again and see if this is correct, or think of something else. So when you are in that situation in which your research doesn't make any sense, in which you have sort of disconnected pieces, like some data lives on your collaborator's drive that you haven't opened in months. Some data is scattered in some presentations that you prepared for your supervisor. Some figures are sort of there, but they are not complete. They feel quite I would say naked. They are not there to really provide useful information. They are just something that you generated at some point and then forgot about it. How can we connect all of that into a research story that makes sense to you, to your PI, to your collaborators, that you can write it up, that you can finish it, and then finally submit? So how do we get from random nonsense to something like that? The answer is not by working harder. And this is something that I speak from pure experience, because I was the person who thought that hard work beats everything. Hard work, if you work hard enough, you are eventually going to find your answer. However, in research, it took me months, or I would say even years, to realize that this is not how things work in research. Because it doesn't matter how hard you work, if you do not actually stop and connect the dots between the things that you already have, build a story around it, and then sort of wrap it up into something that makes sense and sell it in a way that it's meaningful, nothing is ever going to be done. So doing this is something that no one actually teaches you how to do, because you are always sold this story of, yeah, if you work harder, you just repeat your experiments, you think harder, you are smarter, you research more, and then the answer eventually comes. But this is not how it works, because this is only going to lead you to burnout, and you are already exhausted, you are already tired, and you do not have time to go through another burnout and then procrastination cycle. And we all know how it works. Like, you have to work, then you don't work, and then you feel guilty about not working, but you're still not working. So when you are supposed to relax, you're not relaxing. When you're supposed to be working, you cannot work because you're exhausted, and so on. So we don't want to enter that cycle. We want a strategy that makes sure that you turn all of that bunch of mess and random data, scattered plots and scattered results, into something that makes sense. And this is done by be very, very, very brutal in structuring your work and making sure it tells a certain story. And doing that is exactly what I help PhDs do. So we take all of your data, all of your results, all of your scattered pieces of information, and together we make sure it fits into a story you can write about and then finally finish and submit. So if you are now in that situation in which your research doesn't make any sense, if you feel completely lost, if you don't know how to even, you should be writing, but you don't even know where to start from, I want to invite you to schedule a completely free intro coaching call with me. I will leave a link down below in the description, in which we can talk about exactly where you're at, what are the next steps that you should take in your research in order to get closer to that writing and thesis submission, and to make sure that you have something that is cohesive, coherent, and actually might be called a thesis. So having said that, I hope that you found this video useful, and as always, bring structure to your research, make sure that you clean up your code, make sure that you clean up your mind, and bring some structure to it all. As always, see you in the next few days with another video. Bye bye.